I run a company called the Brooklyn Bodega, and we produce an event called the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival, of which Miss Jackson also works on, and so does my colleague here, Jules. And it is the largest hip hop cultural event in New York City. We just wrapped it up almost 2 weeks ago. We had Jay-Z came out, J. Cole, Jay Electronica. It was quite a big deal. In the past, we've had Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar, these people that you would know, people of a certain age, and then there's some good old school guys that I love, Big Daddy Kane, Raekwon. As you see, we have different people in there. We have sort of Drake is in the beginning, at the end, and I think he's sort of an interesting sort of case study now, because when you look at Drake is sort of he hosted the ESPYs the other night. He's a singer, he's a rapper. He's designing all these clothes. He's sort of whether you like him or not, I find him very interesting because he's got his hand in different sort of industries. And if you sort of look at him, and maybe that may be the best example for popular culture that you guys may recognize. But when you think about hip hop culture, hip hop started in the Bronx. All right. The first thing we turned to was pictures of Africa Bambaataa. DJ Kool Herc is widely recognized as the person who started hip-hop as we know it. So the first question that you have to ask is, why did it start in New York? Why did it start in the Bronx in particular? Why didn't it start in Jamaica, Queens, right? Some Queens rappers up there, for better or worse. We had LL, right? We had LL up there. We had Salt and Pepper. Why didn't it start here? Why didn't it start here in Queens? It started in the Bronx because in the late 70s, there was the city was essentially bankrupt. The federal government had let us the whole city go astray. There was a blackout in New York City, and in the Bronx, basically people looted, burned down all the buildings, looted the department stores. I don't know if you guys were around the last blackout. You guys not that young, right? You're not that. I forget sometimes. I'm getting older and older. I forget my jokes. But you were little though, so you remember that. So imagine that like times 10, where there was no real violence, right? There was no violence around your way. But when I was 3 years old, that one was happening. Had to come inside because people were running down the streets. People were breaking into department stores because you had this city that had neglected us, right? School lunches were being shut down. Basic emergency services were not being given. Trash wasn't being picked up. It was a bit of like a powder keg. And then the lights go off and people get their retribution. Hip-hop sort of came out of that, of this lawlessness. Gangs running around, not sort of like Bloods and Crips, like some sort of movie that you will see, or I don't know how the gang situation is these days, but it was multiple gangs. It was the Black Spades and the Latin Kings, everybody sort of fighting for this little territory. And the cops, it got so wild, the cops was like, you know what? Y'all just go ahead and kill yourselves. I'm done. I'm not going in there, because cops would go into the South Bronx and they would get shot at. Right? And then they said, I don't want no part of it, and I'll let you guys sort of fight amongst yourselves. So Africa Bambaataa, who is the founder of the Universal Zulu Nation, was actually a warlord of the Black Spade, not a person you want to mess with. And he sits there and he looks at Puerto Ricans killing Dominicans killing Jews killing blacks, being like, this is madness. This is exactly what they want us to do. They want to kill us all off, and then they'll sweep back in, build the property up, and then sort of all of the affluent New Yorkers will return to the Bronx. So Bambaataa steps up and said, no, we can't do this anymore. Says, you over there, I seen you in the hallways writing graffiti on the walls, and I seen you in the back of history class writing rhymes. So and then I see you guys after class fighting each other because you from Tremont, you from Rosedale. And he says, stop that. We're all going to get together because there's sort of the graffiti right over here, the MC over here, and I see you got the two turntables and you know how to steal electricity from the power lines, right? And you over here spinning on your head. The next important part was the DJ, was the person who had these sounds in their head. But piano classes cut, art classes are cut from public schools. Your parents are struggling just to make ends meet, just to eat, let alone teach you how to play the violin or something like that. But what do you have? You turn and you open up the cabinet and you have all of these records from your father or your mother's collection. And now, let me rewind a little bit. We go to the Bronx. Let's go even before the blackouts. Is New York City before housing projects, right? as much as housing projects have not really worked out as well as they had hoped, it was even worse before that. It was low-rise tenement buildings, right, run by what we call slumlords. Sometimes you didn't have running water. Sometimes you didn't have heat, in the winter, let alone, but there was no AC. I grew up in a world when you put the fan in the window and you had to keep it 100. Now my world has completely opened up. And now if I want to find out, I walk 2 doors down like, yo, whatever, John, what's your mom's cooking? You know what I mean? Like, let me get some of that. And what is that record right there? And then the DJ, and this is where we get back to the DJ. You're my resident DJ just because you look like a DJ I used to deal with back in the day. But now he's in here like, yo, let me get that record. Let me listen to that Tito Puente record. Additionally, the DJ culture we live in was very tech savvy, right? Because we don't have generators, right? We don't have independent power sources. We're not allowed in the clubs. We're not allowed to actually anywhere to perform this music. So where do we go? We go out into the park, which is what we do with the festival. We go straight up into that big yard, right? Y'all all know the yards I'm talking about when you're in public school, they just let you out during recess. When they tell you don't do it, tell them to shut up because they don't know what they're talking about, right? Every crazy idea at some point, somebody said that makes no sense. They call the graffiti artist a criminal, and now Facebook. When you let's say Facebook is when it's somebody's birthday and you want to write them a happy birthday message. Where do you put it? Oh, so you're writing messages on a wall for everybody to see. Zuckerberg saw that and was like, yo, if we just digitize it, he's made $1 billion on ideas that we came up with, right? I still have a beef. He owes hip-hop at least one of those billions for all those ideas. But this is what I want you guys to look at, is to look at your culture, not just by these, Meek Mill's going to jail, Bobby Shmurda dancing on tables when he gets signed. It's much bigger than that. It is really the struggle of oppressed people against the system. And it's women, it's people of color, it's gays, it's Jews, it's Muslims, it's everything that I think may be represented in this room is really what the spirit of hip-hop is. So as you guys go out there and you listen to your music, I hope that we can just put this little bit of kernel, in your head.